The year was 2387, and Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Nexus Prime was the biggest structure he had ever seen, a metal city floating in the darkness between stars. Ships from dozens of different worlds came and went like busy insects around a hive. "First time seeing the Council Station, Commander?" asked Dr. Lisa Parker, stepping up beside him. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who studied alien creatures. For a living? Her job was to understand how other species thought and fought. "Yeah," Jake replied. "Hard to believe humans have been part of this for 57 years. Lisa laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Part of it? Jake, we're barely tolerated here. Most of these aliens think we're just smart animals who got lucky with space travel." Jake knew she was right. In the 57 years since humans had joined the Galactic Federation, they had been treated like the new kids in school. The other species saw them as weak, young, and not very important. They gave humans small jobs in tiny territories, always watching to make sure they did not cause trouble. The three big powers in the galaxy were the Korthic Empire, the Zephyrian Collective, and the Vorthan Dominion. Each one controlled hundreds of star systems and had military forces that could destroy entire planets. They had been fighting each other for thousands of years, and they saw humans as nothing more than a curiosity. "Docking complete," announced the ship's computer. "Oh." "Crew prepare for station transfer." Jake and Lisa made their way through the station's corridors. The place was huge, with ceilings so high they disappeared into shadows. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the halls. Some walked on two legs like humans, others crawled on many legs or floated in the air. The smell was strange, a mix of different atmospheres and alien biology. They reached the council chamber, where Ambassador Elena Foster was already waiting. She was a tall woman with gray hair who had spent 20 years dealing with alien politics. She looked tired, like someone who had been fighting an uphill battle for too long. "Jake, Lisa," she said when she saw them. "I'm glad you're here. Today is not going to be easy." The council chamber was enormous, with seating for representatives from over 100 different species. At the center sat the three major powers. The Korthic delegation looked like giant lizards wearing military uniforms. Their leader, General Vexthorin, was nearly 3 meters tall with scales that looked like armor and eyes like yellow fire. The Zephyrian representatives were harder. To count, they looked like giant insects, but they moved together like they shared one mind. Their leader, if it could be called that, was a creature the size of a small car with wings that made a constant humming sound. The Vorthan Dominion sent beings that looked like living crystals. They were beautiful in a cold way, their bodies, catching and reflecting light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Their representative, called Resonance of Authority, sang its words in musical tones that made the air itself vibrate. "The meeting will come to order," announced the station's central computer. "Today's topic is the territorial dispute in the Kepler sector." Jake had read about this problem. 3 star systems with valuable resources and all 3 major powers wanted them. Usually this would mean war, but the Galactic Federation tried to prevent that when possible. General Vexthorin stood first. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "The Korthic Empire has the strongest claim to these systems. We have the military power to take them and the strength to hold them. That is how territory is claimed in the real galaxy." The Zephyrian representative's wings buzzed louder. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The collective disagrees. These systems lie along our traditional migration routes. We have used them for 10,000 years. Numbers matter more than individual strength." Resonance of Authorities. Crystalline form began to glow. Its song speech filled the chamber. "The Dominion recognizes neither brute force nor simple numbers. These systems resonate with our harmonic frequencies. They are ours by right of natural law." The argument continued for hours. Each species presented their claims, their military readiness reports, their historical documents. Jake noticed that none of them seemed interested in sharing or finding a peaceful solution. They only wanted to prove they were stronger than the others. Finally, Ambassador Foster stood up. The human delegation would like to propose a solution. The chamber fell silent. Then General Vexthorn made a sound that might have been laughter. The mammals want to speak? This should be amusing. What could a species barely out of its own system possibly offer? Buzzed the Zephyrian voice. You have been in space for less than 100 years. We have been fighting wars since before. Your species discovered fire? Resonance of Authority's song became colder. Young species often mistake noise for wisdom. Your emotional instability makes you unsuitable for complex negotiations. Elena Foster did not seem bothered by the insults. Jake had seen her deal with alien rudeness before. She simply nodded and continued. We propose a demonstration. Each of the major powers can show their military capabilities in a neutral system. The winner takes the disputed territories. The chamber erupted in what passed for alien laughter. The Korthek delegation hissed and growled. Zephyrian's buzzing became almost deafening. The Vorthan crystals rang like broken bells. General Vexthorn wiped his yellow eyes. You want to compete with us? Your species has maybe a dozen real warships. We have fleets that number in the thousands. Your largest vessel is smaller than our fighter craft, added the Zephyrian voice. And your weapons technology is centuries behind ours. This is either very brave or very stupid, sang Resonance of Authority. We are curious to see which, Ambassador Foster smiled. It was a calm, confident smile that made Jake nervous. We accept your evaluation of our capabilities. The demonstration will take place in 3 months' time at the neutral zone in the Kepler sector. Each power will have 1 hour to show what they can do. The alien representatives looked at each other. They had expected humans to back down when challenged. Instead, they had been given exactly what they wanted, a chance to show off their military might and humiliate the upstart humans at the same time. Agreed, said General Vexthorn. The Korthik Empire will enjoy teaching mammals their place in the galaxy. The collective concurs, buzzed the Zephyrian representative. It will be educational for all species to witness. The Dominion finds this acceptable, sang Resonance of Authority. Harmony requires that all understand their proper position. As the meeting broke up, Jake walked beside Ambassador Foster toward their ship. Ma'am, are you sure about this? We're going to be facing the 3 most powerful militaries in the galaxy. Elena Foster looked at him with that same calm smile. Jake, do you know what humans are really good at? Exploration, diplomacy, surprises, she said. We're very good at surprises. Meanwhile, far away on Mars, Admiral Susan Wright stood in a secure facility deep underground. Around her, holographic displays showed the locations of human ships, stations, and colonies across the galaxy. To most observers, it looked like a small, scattered presence. A few dozen ships, some mining stations, research posts, and trading vessels. Admiral Wright had been planning for this day for 30 years. She had watched the alien powers grow comfortable with human weakness. She had seen them dismiss human technology as primitive and human strategy as naive. They had made the same mistake that enemies of humanity had always made throughout history. They had confused peaceful intentions with inability to fight. She touched a control on her desk, opening a secure communication channel. Jake, this is Admiral Wright. I trust the demonstration went well. Jake's voice came through clearly despite the vast distance. Yes, ma'am, the aliens took the bait completely. They think they're going to get an easy victory. Good, it's time. To implement Protocol Omega, make sure all our people are ready. In 3 months, we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate a species that learned to survive by being smarter than everything that wanted to eat it. Around the facility, lights began to flicker on. Thousands of displays came to life, showing installations that officially did not exist, mining platforms that were actually weapons factories, research stations that were military command centers, trading ships that carried enough firepower to level cities. For 57 years, humanity had been playing a role. The role of the weak, peaceful species that just wanted to get along. They had been so convincing that they had fooled themselves sometimes. But now the mask was about to come off. Admiral Wright looked at the central display, which showed Earth, floating peacefully in space. It looked so small and vulnerable. The aliens thought it was humanity's greatest weakness, having only one homeworld to defend. They had no idea it was actually humanity's greatest strength. "Let's show them what humans do when someone threatens their home," she said quietly. In 3 months, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest military asset was not their ships or their weapons. It was their ability to make everyone else underestimate them until it was too late to do anything about it. 3 months later, Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the greatest gathering of military power in galactic history. The neutral zone in the Kepler sector had become the center of attention for every species in the galaxy. News ships from hundreds of worlds surrounded the demonstration area, their cameras ready to record what everyone expected to be humanity's humiliation. The Korthek Empire had brought their finest warships. 5 massive dreadnoughts hung in space, like metal mountains, each one 5 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. Their hulls were covered in thick armor plating that could withstand the heat of a star. Plasma cannons the size of city blocks jutted from their sides, and their engines glowed with the power of controlled nuclear fusion. "Look at the size of those things," whispered Dr. Lisa Parker, standing beside Jake. "Each one of those ships could destroy our entire fleet." The Zephyrian Collective had taken a different approach. Instead of a few large ships, they had brought thousands of smaller vessels. The swarm stretched across space like a living cloud, each ship about the size of a fighter jet but moving in perfect coordination. When they flew together, they looked like a single enormous creature made of metal and light. The Vorthan Dominions. Ships were perhaps the most impressive of all. Their crystal vessels seemed to be made of living diamond, reflecting and bending light in impossible ways. As Jake watched, one of their ships simply vanished, then reappeared somewhere else entirely. They could phase through normal matter, making them nearly impossible to hit with conventional weapons. "And what do we have?" asked Captain Ben Rodriguez over the communication channel. His ship, the UES Sentinel, was positioned nearby. 12 ships that looked like they were built in someone's garage. It was true. The human fleet looked pathetic compared to the alien armadas. The UES Horizon and its sister ships were simple, functional designs. They had clean lines and practical features, but none of the imposing presence of the alien warships. To most observers, they looked like cargo haulers that had been pressed into military service. Admiral Susan Wright's voice came through the secure channel. "Remember, gentlemen, we're not here to look impressive." "We're here to be impressive? Dr. Parker, are all our systems ready?" "Yes, ma'am," Lisa replied. "All quantum displacement arrays are online. Gravitational manipulation systems are fully charged, and our friends in the outer system are standing by." The demonstration began with the Korthek Empire. General Vexthorn's voice boomed across the communication channels as his dreadnoughts moved into position. "Behold the power of the Korthek military. We do not waste time with tricks or deception. We simply destroy our enemies." The target was a derelict battleship, something that had been abandoned in space for decades. It was huge, nearly 2 kilometers long, and made of the strongest metals known to galactic science. To the watching audience, it represented a challenge that would test the limits of any weapon system. The Korthek dreadnoughts opened fire. Streams of plasma hot enough to melt planets struck the target. The abandoned ship lasted less than 10 seconds before it was completely vaporized. Where there had been a massive vessel, now there was only glowing gas and scattered atoms. The alien news commentators were impressed. "The Korthek Empire has just demonstrated why they have been the dominant military force in this sector for over 1,000 years, announced one reporter. Complete destruction in seconds. Next came the Zephyrian Collective. Their swarm of ships moved toward another derelict vessel, this one even larger than the first, but instead of using massive weapons, they simply surrounded it. The ships began to work together, each one using precise cutting tools to slice the target into pieces. Within minutes, the abandoned ship was gone. Not destroyed, but completely consumed. The Zephyrian ships had broken it down into its component parts and absorbed everything useful. It was like watching metal-eating insects strip a carcass clean. Fascinating, reported another news commentator. The Zephyrian Collective has shown that destruction and consumption can be the same thing. Nothing is wasted in their method of warfare. The Vorthan Dominion chose a different approach entirely. Their crystal ships approached the third target, another massive derelict. But instead of attacking it from the outside, they simply phased through its hull. The ships moved through the solid metal like it was empty space, and wherever they passed, the target's molecular structure began to break down. The abandoned vessel didn't explode or burn. It simply stopped being solid. The metal became liquid, then gas, then finally just energy that dissipated into space. The Vorthan ships had attacked the target at the atomic level, disrupting the forces that held matter together. Incredible, breathed the third commentator. The Vorthan Dominion has demonstrated mastery over the fundamental forces of reality itself. They don't just destroy their enemies, they unmake them. Now it was humanity's turn. The alien fleets and new ships focused their attention on the small human vessels. General Vexthorn's voice carried clear amusement. Now we will see what the mammals can do with their primitive technology. This should be entertaining. The human target was different from the others. Instead of a derelict warship, they had chosen a small asteroid about 1 kilometer wide. To the watching aliens, it seemed like humans were admitting they could only handle a much smaller challenge. Jake Morrison's voice came across the communication channels, calm and professional. Use Horizon to all vessels. Beginning demonstration of human defensive capabilities. The Horizon approached the asteroid slowly, almost casually. Instead of weapons ports opening or energy building up, a small bay opened in the ship's hull. Something that looked like a simple probe launched toward the target. The probe was tiny compared to the asteroid. No bigger than a person, it moved. Without visible propulsion, drifting through space like a piece of debris. When it reached the asteroid, it simply touched the surface and stopped. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien observers began to murmur among themselves. Had the human weapon failed? Was this some kind of joke? Then the asteroid simply wasn't there anymore, not destroyed, not vaporized, not consumed or broken down. Simply gone. One moment it existed, the next moment there was only empty space. No explosion, no flash of light, no debris. The kilometer-wide chunk of rock had been completely removed from reality. The alien fleets fell silent. Even the news commentators had nothing to say. They had just witnessed something that violated their understanding of physics. Dr. Lisa Parker's voice came across the communication channels, speaking in the calm tone of a scientist giving a lecture. What you have just observed is quantum displacement technology. The target was not destroyed. It was moved to a parallel dimension. The asteroid still exists, but not in our reality. The implications hit the alien observers like a physical blow. If humans could remove matter from existence, what else could they do? How did you fight an enemy who could make your ship simply disappear? But the human demonstration was far from over. Captain Ben Rodriguez's ship, the UE Sentinel, moved toward a second target, an entire asteroid field containing dozens of space rocks of various sizes. Now we'll show you our gravitational manipulation systems, Rodriguez announced. The Sentinel didn't fire any visible weapons. Instead, space itself began to change around the asteroid field. The rocks started moving, drawn toward a single point by an invisible force. As they came together, they moved faster and faster until they were spinning in a tight spiral. At the center of the spiral, something impossible began to form. A point of absolute darkness appeared, so black that it seemed to absorb light itself. The asteroid spiraled into it and vanished, pulled apart by forces that could tear atoms from their nuclei. A black hole, whispered someone on the alien communication channels. They created a black hole. The human ships had just demonstrated the ability to manipulate gravity itself, to create and control one of the most destructive forces in the universe. The watching aliens realized they were not just seeing advanced technology, they were seeing the mastery of fundamental physics, but then Rodriguez did something even more shocking. With another adjustment to his ship's systems, the black hole, simply ... the incredible gravitational force that had been pulling in matter from across the system vanished as if it had never existed. Gravitational manipulation allows us to create and dispel gravitational anomalies at will, Rodriguez explained. We can make black holes, neutron star gravity, or even reverse gravity fields, and we can turn them on and off like a light switch. The alien fleets were no longer just watching a demonstration. They were witnessing the emergence of a new type of power in the galaxy. A power that didn't just destroy enemies or consume resources or unmake matter. A power that could reshape reality itself. Admiral Wright's voice cut through the stunned silence. What you have seen today represents the basic defensive capabilities of our exploration fleet. These are not our warships, they are our scientists and diplomats. Our actual military capabilities are significantly more advanced. She paused, letting that sink in. But more importantly, what you have witnessed is not our most advanced technology. These systems were developed for civilian purposes: terraforming, asteroid mining, deep space construction. 2 weeks after the demonstration in the Kepler sector, the galaxy was a very different place. Emergency meetings were being held on every major world. Military leaders who had spent centuries confident in their power now found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about warfare. On the Korthak homeworld, General Vex Thorin stood before the War Council, his usually confident voice shaken. The humans have made our entire military doctrine obsolete. How do you fight an enemy who can make your ships disappear or create black holes wherever they want? The Zephyrian Collective's hive mind was experiencing something it had never felt before: genuine uncertainty. The individual drones that made up their society were asking questions that the collective consciousness could not answer. How could they swarm an enemy who could move their targets to different dimensions? On the crystal worlds of the Vorthan Dominion, the harmonic resonance that had guided their civilization for millennia was disrupted. Their certainty about the nature of reality had been shattered by watching humans manipulate the fundamental forces of physics like simple tools. But instead of backing down, the three major powers did something unprecedented. They formed an alliance, Commander. Jake Morrison watched the intelligence reports flowing into the UES horizon with growing concern. "Lisa, are you seeing this?" Dr. Lisa Parker looked up from her analysis console. "The largest military buildup in galactic history. The Korthak Empire is moving their entire war fleet to the border of human space. The Zephyrian Collective is mobilizing swarms that number in the millions. And the Vorthan Dominion is gathering crystal ships from across their territory." "How many ships total?" Jake asked. "Conservative estimate?" "Over 10,000 warships, plus support vessels and mobile battle stations. They're bringing everything they have." The Alien Alliance had issued an ultimatum to humanity: surrender the quantum displacement and gravitational manipulation technologies or face the combined might of their fleets. They gave humanity 1 week to decide. On Mars, Admiral Susan Wright stood in the secure command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching alien forces. With her were the top military leaders from across human space. General Patricia Hayes from the Luna Defense Force looked worried. Colonel Ryan Murphy from the Outer Colony Command was studying fleet positions with a frown. Commander Morrison had been called back from the horizon to participate in humanity's response. "They want our technology," said General Hayes. "Maybe we should consider negotiating. Give them some of it in exchange for peace." "That won't work," replied Dr. Parker, who had also been called to the meeting. "These technologies aren't just weapons to them. They represent a fundamental shift in the balance of power. They can't allow us to keep them because it would make their own military forces irrelevant." Colonel Murphy nodded grimly. "Intelligence suggests this isn't just about the technology anymore. It's about fear. They're afraid that if other species see what humans can do, their own empires might start questioning why they need such large military forces. Admiral Wright listened to the discussion, then moved to the central display. There's something you all need to understand about our technology. The quantum displacement and gravitational manipulation systems aren't our most advanced weapons. The room fell silent. Jake felt his stomach drop. Ma'am? Tell them, Dr. Parker. Lisa cleared her throat nervously. The technologies we demonstrated were developed for civilian use. Quantum displacement was designed for waste disposal and deep space construction. Gravitational manipulation was created for terraforming and asteroid mining. We adapted them for military use, but they're essentially construction tools. The implications were staggering. If humanity's construction tools were more advanced than the galaxy's most sophisticated weapons, what did their actual military technology look like? Admiral Wright activated another display. For 30 years, we've been developing these technologies not for war, but for building. We wanted to create new worlds, move asteroids to useful orbits, and explore distant galaxies. The military applications were an afterthought. She paused, looking around the room. The greatest strength of humanity isn't our weapons. It's our ability to turn any tool into a weapon when we need to protect ourselves. Colonel Murphy raised his hand. Admiral, what exactly are our actual military capabilities? Instead of answering directly, Admiral Wright activated Protocol Omega across the galaxy. Human installations that had appeared to be simple research stations and trading posts suddenly revealed their true nature. The displays in the command center lit up with thousands of new contacts. Every human colony, every space station, every exploration vessel. They're all connected in a network we call the Solar Web. It's a construction and communication system that spans the galaxy. But it can also be used for defense. Jake watched the displays with amazement. The network was incredible. Human installations were connected by quantum communication links that allowed instant coordination across galactic distances. What had appeared to be a small, scattered human presence was actually a unified system of unprecedented scope. The alien fleets are impressive, continued Admiral Wright. But they're thinking in terms of traditional warfare. Fleet against fleet. Ship against ship. They don't understand that we've been preparing for a different kind of conflict entirely. She activated another control, and the display showed the positions of the approaching alien forces. They're bringing everything they have to attack our home system. They think that if they can destroy Earth, they can defeat humanity. They don't realize that Earth isn't our weakness, it's our strength. Captain Ben Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system from his ship. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the alien fleets. They're preparing to jump to faster-than-light speed. Let them come, Admiral Wright replied calmly. Dr. Parker, initiate the Revelation Protocol. Across the galaxy, human installations began broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple but shocking. Every human trader, explorer, and diplomat who had been peacefully interacting with alien species for decades began transmitting their real identities, the merchant vessel that had been selling agricultural products in Korthic space revealed itself as a mobile command center equipped with enough firepower to destroy a battle fleet. The research station that had been studying stellar phenomena in Zephyrian territory was actually a weapons development facility that had been testing new technologies for 50 years. The diplomatic mission in Vorthan space was a deep cover intelligence operation that had been gathering information on crystal technology, but the most shocking revelation came from Captain Rodriguez himself. His ship, the UES Sentinel, which had been presented as a simple exploration vessel, transformed before the eyes of watching alien observers. The hull reconfigured itself, revealing weapon systems and defensive arrays that had been hidden in plain sight. Ladies and gentlemen, Rodriguez announced to the galaxy, meet the UES Sentinel in its true configuration. One of 12 human warships, designed specifically for combat against technologically advanced opponents. The alien intelligence services realized they had been completely fooled. For over 50 years, they had been monitoring human activities, analyzing human technology, and assessing human military capabilities. But they had been looking at decoys and misdirection while the real human military infrastructure was being built right under their noses. Commander Morrison understood now why Admiral Wright had been so confident. We've been playing a role. The peaceful explorers, the simple traders, the weak species that just wanted to get along. It was all an act. Not an act, Admiral Wright corrected. We really are peaceful explorers and traders. But we're also survivors. Our species learned long ago that the best way to avoid a fight is to make sure that anyone who starts one will regret it. The alien fleets were still approaching, but now they were receiving intelligence reports that changed everything. The humans they thought they were about to destroy were not the primitive mammals they had been pretending to be. They were something far more dangerous, a species that had been preparing for war while convincing everyone they were incapable of it. General Vex Thorne's voice came across the communication channels, no longer confident and mocking. This is impossible. Our scouts report that human installations across the galaxy are activating weapon systems we've never seen before. How did you hide this from us? Admiral Wright's response was broadcast to every ship in the alien fleets. We didn't hide it, General. We built it right in front of you. You saw research stations, so you assumed we were doing research. You saw mining operations, so you assumed we were mining resources. You saw trading vessels, so you assumed we were conducting commerce. She paused, letting the implications sink in. You saw what you expected to see. You never considered that we might be doing all of those things and preparing for war at the same time. Dr. Parker added her own analysis to the broadcast. Human psychology is different from yours, General. We don't separate civilian and military activities the way you do. Every human colony is also a fortress. Every trading ship is also a scout vessel. Every research station is also a weapons laboratory. We build everything with multiple purposes. The Alien Alliance fleet was the most powerful military force ever assembled in galactic history. Over 10,000 warships moved through space toward the Sol system, their engines lighting up the darkness like a swarm of angry stars. The Korthek dreadnoughts led the formation, their massive hulls bristling with enough firepower to crack planets. Behind them came the Zephyrian swarms, millions of fighter-sized vessels moving in perfect coordination. The Vorthan crystal ships brought up the rear, their diamond hulls phasing in and out of normal space. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the approaching fleet on the long-range sensors. The human ships were positioned between the alien armada and Earth, but they looked impossibly small compared to what was coming toward them. 12 human vessels against 10,000 alien warships. They'll be here in 6 hours, reported Dr. Lisa Parker from her station. All alien forces are maintaining formation and speed. No signs they suspect anything unusual. Captain Ben Rodriguez's voice came through the communication channel from the UES Sentinel. Jake, are you getting the same sensor readings I am? There's something strange about Earth's orbit. Jake looked at the tactical display more carefully. Earth appeared completely defenseless, just as it had for centuries. No orbital weapons platforms, no defensive satellites, no visible military installations. But Rodriguez was right, something was different. The planet's position relative to the sun seemed slightly off. Admiral Susan Wright's voice cut through their observations. All human vessels maintain current positions. Do not engage the enemy fleet until I give the order. What you're about to witness is not a battle. It's a demonstration of what humanity has been building while the galaxy wasn't watching. General Vex Thorne's voice boomed across the communication channels as the alien fleet approached the edge of the Sol system. Humans, this is your final chance. Surrender your advanced technologies and accept our protection, or face the consequences of defying the 3 greatest powers in the galaxy. The Zephyrian Queen Mind's collective voice buzzed with anticipation. Your resistance is meaningless. Our numbers are infinite. Your destruction is certain. Resonance of Authority's crystal song rang through space with cold certainty. The natural Order will be restored. Young species must learn their place in the galactic hierarchy. Admiral Wright appeared on all communication channels, standing alone on the bridge of the UES Defiance. Behind her, Earth hung in space like a blue marble, looking vulnerable and defenseless. You want to see humanity's true military power? Very well, but understand this: what you're about to witness is not a weapon of war. It's a tool of creation that we have never had to use as a weapon. She touched a control on her command console. Activate the solar array. Suddenly, the space around the sun came alive with activity. Massive structures that had been invisible to all sensors began to reveal themselves. They were built into the solar corona itself, hidden in the blazing heat and radiation where no other species could detect them. Hundreds of installations, each one the size of a small moon, began to unfold like metal flowers blooming in the heart of a star. The alien fleet's sensors went wild. Their instruments had never detected anything like this before. The structures were made of materials that could exist in the sun's corona, using technology that was beyond anything in the known galaxy. Solar collectors, Dr. Parker explained to the stunned alien commanders. We've been building them for 50 years, using the sun's energy for terraforming projects throughout the galaxy. Each installation can harvest and focus the power of a star. The installations began to move, aligning themselves with mathematical precision. Energy readings spiked across every sensor in the system as the collectors started to gather the sun's power into a coherent beam. But instead of aiming at the alien fleet, Admiral Wright did something that defied all military logic. She aimed it at a barren world in the outer system. The focused solar energy struck the dead planet with unimaginable force. But instead of destroying it, something miraculous happened. The concentrated starlight began to transform the world. Atmosphere formed from nothing. Oceans appeared as water vapor condensed from the energy beam. In a matter of minutes, the watching fleets witnessed the birth of a new world. Terraforming, Admiral Wright explained calmly. We can create worlds with the same ease that you destroy them. This is what humans have been doing while you've been fighting wars. We've been building the future. General Vex Thorne's voice was no longer confident. This is impossible. You're using a star as a weapon. Not as a weapon, Admiral Wright corrected. As a tool. We can create worlds, move planets, ignite new stars, or extinguish old ones. We can reshape entire solar systems to meet our needs. Your fleets are impressive, but they're still thinking in terms of destruction. We've moved beyond that. Commander Morrison watched as more human capabilities were revealed across the system. The asteroid mining stations that had been operating in the outer system for decades suddenly showed their true purpose. They weren't just extracting resources, they were mobile construction platforms capable of building new installations in a matter of hours. Captain Rodriguez demonstrated the next level of human technology. All alien vessels observed the UES Sentinel. His ship began to reconfigure itself in ways that should have been impossible. The hull flowed like liquid metal, reforming into new shapes and configurations. Programmable matter. We can rebuild our ships on demand, adapt to any situation, become whatever we need to be. But the real shock came when Dr. Parker revealed the scope of humanity's construction projects. Every star system humanity has visited, we've left behind. The infrastructure to harness stellar energy. Not for war, for creation. We've been building a network that spans the galaxy, connecting every human colony with the power to reshape reality itself. Across the galaxy, human installations that had been dismissed as simple research stations began to activate. The agricultural station in the Centauri system revealed massive terraforming arrays that could create Earth-like worlds in weeks. The Deep Space Observatory near Vega started generating gravitational fields that could move entire star systems. The trading hub at Volf 359 began, producing matter conversion beams that could transform any element into any other element. The alien commanders were beginning to understand that they hadn't just underestimated human military power, they had completely misunderstood what human civilization was trying to accomplish. While the galaxy's empires had been fighting over existing resources, humanity had been learning to create new ones. Admiral Wright's next demonstration shattered every remaining assumption about human capabilities. You want to see our most advanced technology? Very well. Computer, activate Project Genesis. The space around Earth began to shimmer. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as massive machines hidden in parallel dimensions began to phase into normal space. These weren't ships or stations, they were construction devices the size of moons, capable of manipulating matter and energy on a galactic scale. Dimensional engineering, Admiral Wright explained. We've learned to build in multiple realities simultaneously. What you see as empty space around Earth is actually filled with installations that exist in parallel dimensions. We can bring them into our reality whenever we need them. The alien fleets found themselves surrounded by structures that hadn't existed moments before. Massive rings of exotic matter began to form around their ships, not threatening them but demonstrating humanity's ability to manipulate space itself. Resonance of Authority's crystal form began to sing in harmonics that expressed concepts the Vorthans had no words for. This is beyond our understanding. You have made warfare itself obsolete. That was always the goal, Admiral Wright replied. Not to become better at destroying, but to make destruction unnecessary. Every human colony is a fortress, but it's also a factory for creating new worlds. Every human ship is a weapon, but it's also a tool for building the future. Commander Morrison realized what Admiral Wright was really demonstrating. It wasn't just humanity's military power. It was their vision of what civilization could become. You've turned the entire galaxy into a construction project. Exactly, Admiral Wright confirmed. While you've been fighting over territory, we've been learning to create new territory. While you've been developing better weapons, we've been developing better worlds. We don't want to conquer the galaxy, we want to cultivate it. The demonstrations continued for hours. Human installations across the galaxy revealed capabilities that redefined what was possible. They could create matter from energy, move planets between star systems, ignite dead stars, and build habitable worlds in the vacuum of space, but the most shocking revelation came when Admiral Wright showed the aliens what humanity had been building in secret for the past 50 years. Hidden bases in parallel dimensions, stellar engineering projects that span multiple star systems, and construction fleets that could rebuild entire solar systems according to human specifications. This is our true military doctrine, Admiral Wright announced to the stunned alien fleets. We don't destroy our enemies. We overwhelm them with the scope of our creativity. We make warfare meaningless by demonstrating that we can build faster than anyone can destroy. 5 years after the confrontation at Earth, Commander Jake Morrison walked through the construction yards orbiting the newly created world of New Harmony. The planet had been born from the focused energy of 3 different stars, its continents, shaped by human gravitational manipulation and its oceans filled with water transported through dimensional gateways. But what made it truly special was not the technology used to create it, it was the fact that humans had not built it alone, working alongside. Jake were beings that 5 years ago had been enemies. Former Korthak warriors used their military precision to construct massive cities with geometric perfection. Reformed Zephyrian drones worked in coordinated swarms to plant forests that would grow in patterns impossible for individual workers to achieve. Harmonized Vorthan crystals sang new structures into existence, their songs creating buildings that resonated with mathematical beauty. Hard to believe they wanted to destroy us, said Dr. Lisa Parker, joining Jake on the observation platform. She now led the Institute for Galactic Harmony, where scientists from dozens of species work together to solve problems through creation rather than destruction. Jake nodded, watching a mixed crew of humans and aliens install the final components of a weather control system. Admiral Wright always said the goal was to turn enemies into allies. I just never imagined it would work this well. The transformation had not happened overnight. After the demonstration at Earth, the Alien Alliance had faced a choice that challenged everything they believed about power and civilization. Some had chosen to retreat, returning to their home systems to reconsider their understanding of warfare. Others had chosen to stay and learn. General Vexthorn had been among the first to make the transition. The proud Korthic warrior had spent his entire life believing that strength came from the ability to destroy enemies. Watching humans create entire worlds had shattered that belief. Now he stood on the bridge of the newly redesigned vessel called the Korthic Builder, leading the largest construction project in his empire's history. "Captain Rodriguez to all vessels," came the familiar voice over the communication system. "The orbital ring around New Harmony is ready for final integration. All construction teams prepare for the connection sequence." Captain Ben Rodriguez had become humanity's first galactic ambassador, his natural ability to find common ground with other species making him the perfect bridge between civilizations. His ship, the UES Sentinel, had been joined by vessels from across the galaxy, all working together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species to complete. The orbital ring was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Korthak structural technology provided the framework. Zephyrian swarm coordination allowed for precise assembly of millions of components. Vothan harmonic resonance ensured that every piece fit together in perfect mathematical harmony. And human dimensional engineering made it possible to build structures that existed partially in parallel realities, providing unlimited space in a limited area. Integration beginning in 3, 2, 1, Rodriguez announced. Jake watched as the massive ring structure slowly rotated into position around the planet. The ring was not just a space station, it was a living system that would regulate the planet's weather, protect it from cosmic radiation, and provide a platform for future expansion. Most importantly, it had been built by species that had been trying to kill each other just 5 years ago. The change had not been limited to the former enemies. Humanity itself had been transformed by the experience. Admiral Susan right now served as the director of galactic construction, overseeing projects that spanned multiple star systems. The secret military infrastructure that had been built over 50 years was being converted into the largest construction network in galactic history. "All systems show green," reported a voice that Jake recognized as belonging to a Zephyrian drone. The individual consciousness within the collective had grown stronger since exposure to human concepts of creativity and personal achievement. "Orbital ring is fully operational and beginning atmospheric management protocols." Dr. Parker smiled as she watched the first clouds form in the planet's new atmosphere. "Remember when we thought our biggest achievement was making a star focus its energy? Now we're building worlds where different species can live together in harmony." The transformation had spread far beyond the original alliance. News of the human demonstration had reached every corner of the galaxy, inspiring changes in civilizations that had never even met humans. The crystalline hegemony had abandoned their policy of isolationism and begun sharing their crystal-growing technology. The mechanical collective had stopped their endless expansion and started building artistic structures that served no practical purpose except beauty. "Jake, Lisa, you need to see this," came Admiral Wright's voice over their personal communicators. "We just received a message from the Outer Rim territories. The Savage clans want to join the construction project." The Savage clans were nomadic raiders who had terrorized the galaxy's edge for centuries. They had never shown interest in anything except violence and plunder. If they were asking to join the construction effort, it meant the change was spreading. Even to the most unlikely places. Jake and Lisa made their way to the communication center, where Admiral Wright was speaking with a figure that appeared on the holographic display. The being looked like a cross between a Volf and a machine, with cybernetic implants covering half its body. This was Howl of Steel, one of the most feared raiders in the Outer Rim. "Human Admiral," the raider was saying in broken galactic standard. "Howl of Steel has heard of your building magic. Clans are tired of taking things from others. Want to learn making things instead?" Admiral Wright's response was patient and welcoming. "We would be honored to have the clans join us, Howl of Steel. Construction requires many different skills, and we believe your people's resourcefulness would be valuable." The conversation continued for several minutes, with the Admiral explaining how the construction projects worked and what the clans could contribute. Jake was amazed at how naturally she spoke with the former raider, treating him as an equal partner rather than a reformed enemy. After the communication ended, Admiral Wright turned to Jake and Lisa. "That's the 47th species to request inclusion in the construction projects this month. The change is accelerating." The numbers were incredible. What had started as a desperate demonstration to prevent galactic war had become a movement that was reshaping civilization itself. Species that had been enemies for millennia were learning to work together. Technologies that had been developed for warfare were being used to build wonders that benefited everyone. "Admiral," Jake asked, "did you always know it would work out this way?" Wright considered the question carefully. "I knew that humans had the ability to build faster than others could destroy. But I hoped that if we could demonstrate that building was more powerful than destroying, other species would want to learn how to do it too." She gestured toward the window, where New Harmony floated in space like a jewel. "The secret was never making ourselves the strongest military power. It was showing everyone that there was a better way to be strong." The construction of New Harmony was just one of hundreds of similar projects taking place across the galaxy. Former battlefields were being transformed into gardens. Dead systems were being brought to life with new stars and planets. The great shipyards that had once built weapons of war were now constructing vessels designed for exploration, terraforming, and artistic expression. Dr. Parker had been tracking the psychological effects of the transformation on different species. "The change goes deeper than just learning new technologies," she explained. "When you show someone that they can create instead of just taking, it changes how they see themselves and their place in the universe." The Korthic Empire had become the Korthic Republic, with former warriors becoming architects and engineers. The Zephyrian Collective had evolved into the Zephyrian Commonwealth, where individual creativity was valued alongside collective achievement. The Vorthan Dominion had transformed into the Vorthan Harmony, dedicated to finding mathematical beauty in cooperative construction. "Captain Rodriguez to Admiral Wright," came the communication. "We're ready for the dedication ceremony." The ceremony was being broadcast across the galaxy, allowing beings from hundreds of different worlds to witness the completion of New Harmony. Representatives from every participating species gathered on the planet's surface, standing together in the first city built by the combined efforts of former enemies. Admiral Wright stepped forward to speak. But before she could begin, General Vex Thoron requested permission to address the gathering. The former Korthak military leader had been transformed by his experiences, his aggressive nature channeled into the pursuit of perfect construction. 5 years ago, the Korthic Empire came to Earth expecting to destroy a weak species. Vex Thoron sighed, his voice carrying to every listener across the galaxy. "Instead, we learned that we were the weak ones. We were strong in destruction but weak in creation. The humans showed us that true strength comes not from the ability to tear down, but from the wisdom to build up." Queen Mind Zix9 of the Zephyrians spoke next, her individual voice distinct within the collective consciousness.